Well, if you're wondering what the delay is, I think we've got a trade coming here.
The Seahawks are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are now on the clock.
I see both teams filling out cards. You know what that means? We've got a trade.
The Packers are now on the clock. The Texans are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are now on the clock.
Well, wait, looks like both war rooms are feverishly back on the phones. I think that means a trade is coming.
The Ravens are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock. All right, now that the pick's in, let's go to Adam. Adam, what can you tell us about this guy?
There have been a few Heisman-winning quarterbacks that become NFL stars, but most of the time, they've been labeled as busts. He fits that same mold of boom or bust, having all the physical tools to win big in college. The question will now be, how does his play translate to the next level? One thing's for sure, the guy knows how to lead a team through adversity. That's a skill every coach wants to see out of his signal caller. Let's see if Mr. Heisman will develop into Mr. Franchise.
The Patriots are now on the clock. The Giants are now on the clock. The Saints are now on the clock. The Cowboys are now on the clock. The Cardinals are now on the clock. The Lions are now on the clock. Pick's been made. Let's go to Adam Schefter to hear more about the player.
I've been told by a number of scouts that he has all the qualities you want to see in any NFL defensive back, and they usually follow that by referencing his pro day. The kid was a blur on the field, running just under a 4.5 in the 40. When it came to drills, he didn't disappoint either. His combination of speed, footwork, fluid hips, and pure instinct made a lot of scouts draw comparisons to a few shutdown corners currently in the NFL. That's a pretty flattering compliment. Now that he's been drafted, it's only a matter of time before we see if that comparison is an accurate one.
The Chargers are now on the clock. The Redskins are now on the clock. The Dolphins are now on the clock. The Vikings are now on the clock. The Panthers are now on the clock. The Raiders are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are now on the clock. The Packers are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are now on the clock. The Ravens are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock.
Hold on now. This pick is trading teams.
Adam, what can you tell us about that last pick?
He entered the season drawing comparisons to some of the most feared defensive linemen in NFL history after a midseason disappearing act that saw him record just 2 tackles in 5 games. Many scouts were left shaking their heads in disbelief. Even with the growing concern over his lack of production, there were some GMs who felt his poor stat lines were a direct result of the increased focus he began receiving as a result of his hot start. One pointed specifically to reports of offensive coordinators fashioning entire game plans around avoiding him, knowing that his fellow linemen were incapable of picking up his mantle. He'll now have a chance to prove believers right, as he's expected to see significant playing time in the preseason with a line far superior to the one he had in college.
The Chiefs are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are now on the clock. The Seahawks are now on the clock. The Buccaneers are now on the clock. The Chiefs are now on the clock. Now that the Cowboys have made their pick, let's go to Adam Schefter to hear more about him.
As aggressive as a defensive lineman as you will find, here's a guy who plays with reckless abandon in his quest to bring down an opposing quarterback. Many I talk to point to this mentality as the reason why he ended up with a ruptured pectoral muscle and cracked sternum, ending his college career. A tendo Achilles allograft reconstruction was needed to repair the pectoral and graft it back into place. Procedure typically takes 12 to 18 months to return from, yet he was able to achieve medical clearance in just 7. What remains to be seen, however, is if his all-out style of play will have changed at all, knowing that an aggravation of the injury likely means an end to his career. Fans of the team should not be surprised if we see a much more passive version of him come this fall. The special shoulder pads he'll need to wear to protect the area could slow him down by themselves.
The Chiefs are now on the clock.